Japan was once an economic giant, a nation known for technological advancements and production, and for being one of the largest economies worldwide. But their economic excellence didn't last long.
円安なんかの関係があって、いろいろ暮らしが大変になって。
に対して給料の値上がりが遅いから。
For over 3 decades or so, the nation has been stuck in a stagnated state that has caused demographic, market-related, and societal changes.
Japan's economy is facing mounting challenges as bankruptcy filings continue to rise.
What caused Japan's stagnation? What does it mean for the Japanese and the rest of the world? Well, let's find out. Back in the 1980s, Japan's economy was undergoing rapid growth and signs of post-World War II recovery had started to show. During those recent years, Japanese companies in the tech and automotive sector, such as Sony, Toyota, and Nintendo, had become household names worldwide, but that changed in the next couple of decades.
Over 100,000 potential buyers are expected to visit this trade show in Yokohama. But because of the global economic slowdown, many of Japan's exporters are rather concerned because for the first time since 1982, the trade balance is reporting a deficit.
Toyota, much like today, was known for its affordable, high-quality, and reliable vehicles. Sony was at the forefront of launching innovative TVs and cameras, and had become a dominant player in the floppy disk market. And Nintendo was the go-to option for television and portable gaming consoles. From 1986 to 1991, Japan experienced an asset price bubble, during which prices of real estate and stock were inflated. But the following year, Japan entered a period of economic stagnation that experts now refer to as the lost decade. Now, the most common answer as to what caused such a thriving economy to collapse is that the asset price bubble finally burst. But what happened? How could a nation known for being an innovator in technology and business get stuck in a stagnated state, and that too for an entire decade? Well, let's find out. We're going to start with what caused the thriving economy of Japan to slow down in the very first place. Now, there are several reasons behind this. The first one being a surplus in savings. A big part of Japan's becoming an economic powerhouse was its insanely high savings rate. For decades, people saved more and spent less, which meant banks had a huge pool of money to lend out. But the same thing became a huge problem in the 1990s. With too much saving and not enough spending, demand took a major hit and the economy stalled. The saving surplus turned into a serious roadblock and dragged down any efforts to recover the economy. Japan's economic struggles aren't just about numbers. They're deeply tied to politics as well. The ruling Liberal Democratic Party, or LDP, has long relied on support from interest groups, representing inefficient, outdated industries. While that support has helped them stay in power, it made real economic reform almost impossible. Instead of tackling big issues like the massive problem of non-performing loans, the LDP was reluctant to push through changes because their backers, who supplied money and votes, fought hard to block reforms. That was a big reason why Japan's economy was stuck in a long asset deflation and liquidity trap. Japan's economic struggles weren't just bad luck. Bad policy decisions made things very bad. For example, just when the economy was starting to show signs of recovery, the 1997 consumption tax hike put the brakes on growth. Then there was the extremely slow response to the non-performing loan crisis, which dragged on for years. And let's not forget the interest rate cuts from 1985 to 1987 to deal with the sharp rise of the yen after the Plaza Accord. Instead of helping, they fueled a massive asset bubble. Although the economic stagnation wasn't entirely the fault of policymakers, their bad decisions made the crisis worse.
Japan used to be the third largest economy in the world, but last year it lost that title to Germany.
One of the biggest reasons Japan struggled with the economic crisis was the deep, almost inseparable ties between government regulators and the industries they were supposed to oversee. Take, for instance, the Ministry of Finance and Japan's banking sector. The two were so closely linked that there was almost no transparency or public accountability. Another important factor behind Japan's economic struggles was the long-term rise of the yen against the dollar. For Japan, a stronger yen has been a constant headache. Take the liquidity trap Japan found itself in. Normally, setting inflation targets and adjusting monetary policy could help, but a sharp devaluation of the yen would have also triggered a chain reaction, forcing South Korea and Taiwan to devalue their currencies too. So, Japan chose to not do anything about the yen problem.
The stampede was so big that the meltdown just exploded in a massive pile of losses for everyone.
From 1955 to 1991, Japan expanded trade and became an economic powerhouse. But while it thrived in global trade, the country struggled with global finance. Neither the government nor the private sector handled the liberalization of capital flows as well as they did with trade. Despite holding massive dollar assets overseas, Japan saw surprisingly low returns. The Asian financial crisis of 1997 to 1998 was another blow to Japan's already struggling economy. The country's manufacturing industries were built to dominate global trade, but its financial sector? Not so much.
But at the same time, there are a lot of downside risks, particularly around global economy. One of them is obviously a China-US trade issue, and also some other political tensions heightened.
Now let's talk about how this economic stagnation really impacted people, especially those living in the country. One of the most notable consequences of Japan's economic stagnation is the country's demographic crisis. With the economy slowing down, the nation struggled to support its aging population. Japan's median age is 49.9 years, the third highest in the world. The country's population is also shrinking due to low birth rates and limited immigration.
少子化は我が国の社会経済全体に関わる問題であり、先送りのできない待ったなしの課題であるとの思いから不退転の決意で取り組んでまいりました。
Japan's population shrunk from 128 million in 2008 to 125 million in 2022. At this rate, it is expected to reduce to only 63 million by 2100. This demographic shift has put a huge pressure on the country's social welfare systems, healthcare infrastructure, and workforce. Another impact of economic stagnation has been on wages. From 1972 to 2024, Japan saw an average growth of just 3%. The per capita income has also remained fairly flat, with a GDP per capita $408,095.56 in US dollars. In 1990, it changed to $462,068.42. In 2023, a mere increase of $6,000 US in 33 years. This has led to lower disposable incomes for average Japanese workers in recent years, meaning they have less to spend on goods, services, and leisure activities.
The people in Japan today don't seem to be doing better than the people back in 1995.
Another consequence of Japan's economic stagnation has been a significant rise in public debt. Over the years, Japan's government has had to rely on increasing public spending to stimulate the economy and supporting aging populations. As of 2023, Japan's public debt stands at an alarming point. By the end of 2025, the outstanding amount of issued government bonds is predicted to reach 1.13 quadrillion yen. The high public debt has limited the government's ability to initiate and implement meaningful reforms or invest in critical infrastructure and innovation.
Where did all of this money go? And the answer is government bonds. As a result, Japan's debt has ballooned to over 260% of its GDP, making it the highest in the developed world.
Once a leader in technology and innovation, Japan has seen its technological dominance fade over the past few decades. Firms like Sony and Panasonic, which once led the global tech industry, have been overtaken by competitors, particularly South Korean and Chinese companies. While Japan still leads in certain sectors like automobile manufacturing, it has fallen behind in new fields like AI, semiconductor production, and renewable energy.
This country was supposed to be the future, but today it's not living up to that potential.
Japan's economic stagnation over the past 3 decades have been a very complex issue, with reasons ranging from policy mismanagement to changing global trends. While the country is still an industrial and technological powerhouse in some areas, it struggles with an aging population, stagnant wages, and an overwhelming debt burden, which is proof that it faces huge challenges in the times ahead.